Welcome back. Well, my hair's all over the place, I think. I just came in from outdoors. Very interesting stuff going on around here. Let me just quickly show you a picture of what happened to my neighbor's yard this week. So, the 6 arborvitae trees, when they were first put in the ground, when my neighbor and his girlfriend planted, I was over there helping them out, watering, etc. And I named them after the princesses of the British royal family. So we have Anne, Beatrice, Charlotte, Diana, Eugenie, and Fergie. And I know Fergie was sort of a stretch, but I really needed an F to fit in there and complete the pattern. So as you can see, Diana, Eugenie, and Fergie were all hit. This was like 2 days ago, just before 5 in the morning. Somebody veered off the main road right through my neighbor's yard. Diana and Fergie aren't looking too good, and Eugenie is absolutely down for the count. Now, this is not the first time his arborvitaes have been hit, and in that same spot. What I hope you'll notice from the picture is they are 20 feet back from the road. I realize it's hard to see because the road is on a slope, but yeah, it's 20 feet back because the township required that. So before he planted them, he was actually out there with a tape measure. Yep, 20 feet off the road, and they're still plowing them down. Ugh. All things considered, it was before 5 in the morning. It was like 3 minutes of. My neighbor knows the exact time because, of course, woke him up with a start. He was in bed, asleep, just a few feet from where that truck ended up. A couple more feet, and my God, he could have been killed. His bedroom is on the second floor, right above there. If the truck had hit the first floor, the second floor probably would have come tumbling down. And my neighbor, and my favorite neighbor dog, thank you very much, would have come tumbling down with it. So it's becoming a real problem. And I think it's finally hit the point where we may need to talk to somebody at the township and find out what they want to do about this. Now, I am across the street from him, which means I am well back from that main road. And to tell you the truth, it's not much of a main road. I mean, it's a state road, but we're not talking a super highway here. But I think maybe it's hit the point where something needs to be done just to guarantee the safety of the residents of the neighborhood. Anyway, I thought I would share that mess with you because guess whose furry little kitty has decided this is Kitty Disneyland? Oh yeah, Audie is all over that tree. He leaves the house in the morning, scurries across the street, climbs on this toppled over tree. I don't know what he thinks he's going to find, but he thinks he's going to find something in there. He's hunting out the vermin. He knows there's something tasty for a cat in that mess. So, yeah, the only one in the neighborhood who is enjoying that mess is Audie. So, enough neighborhood news. What I thought we would take a look at today is a few of my recent purchases, and I'm going to show them to you and sort of explain why I got them and what I hope to do with them when we come back. Okay, so I thought we would start with hair receivers. And I recently purchased about a half a dozen of them. And You're probably wondering why anybody needs half a dozen hair receivers, but I use them for all kinds of things, mostly for little fragrance beads and other potpourri-like stuff, because, I have a cat. People who have cats often have funny smelling houses, and I don't want to be one of those people with a house that smells like cat. I love my cat, but no thank you. Nobody needs to smell that. But it is about the cat that I've always been really sensitive about having odors around the house. So, yeah, that's my thing. But I've also really enjoyed having little hair receivers because they're so decorative, so easy to display. You just put them on an end table. They are useful because they hold everything from the little fragrance beads to earrings to loose change. I have one in the kitchen that just holds stuff. I pick something up off the floor, I drop it in the hair receiver, and then I'll come back some other time, or maybe not, and go through it and figure out what it is, how it ended up there, and where it needs to be. They're very useful little things, but the biggest part of this sort of, I don't really want to call it a collection, but we're kind of getting there, is because they're just so beautiful, so decorative. And these days, if you have a hair receiver, you undoubtedly have a legitimate antique. You have a piece that is over 100 years old. So let's take a look at the little video of the hair receivers. So, starting with hair receivers, this is a piece I purchased about 6 months ago. As you can see, it's a style of Art Nouveau moving into Art Deco. These gorgeous butterflies are what sold me on it. That and the fact that it's lusterware. Now, I brought a few other items from the bathroom out so that you can see why this particular piece had so much appeal. This is a piece I picked up at Bedford Antiques, a lovely little Art Deco bottle. It had no top, and I was able to pick this little amber glass stopper up on eBay for just over $10, including the shipping. I liked the way it worked with the rest of the piece, so I was happy to get that. This is another piece from Bedford Antiques. I got this at Janine's booth. You know, that's one of my favorite booths at Bedford. And, of course, it had my initial on it, and it was celluloid, so it had to be mine. And this also, take this over, this is just a little trinket container. A marbled celluloid top, very Art Deco design. Again, Bedford Antiques find. So the reason I brought all these out is so you can see I had a certain style and a certain set of colors I was dealing with in the bathroom. So when I saw this, it was just irresistible. Now, there are the fragrance beads, so as you can see, this one is already in use. The total cost on that was $17 and change. The piece itself was $5. The shipping was $12 and change, about 2.5 times the cost of the piece. It's Bavarian. It's wonderful. I was very, very glad to get this. Ordinarily, such a high shipping cost would have been a deterrent, but no, please. The overall cost is what you need to keep in mind when you're buying online. In some cases, you'll get a fabulous deal on the piece, but the shipping's very high. In other cases, the piece might be a little high, but it's shipping out for free. So always keep that in mind. And so this is my first hair receiver purchase of 2022, so it was about 6 months ago. I am really pleased to have gotten this because, again, I had a style and a color, and when you're looking for antique pieces, having them fit into your preconceived notion of what you're going for can be very tricky. Glad to get this. So that was the new one for the bathroom. Not exactly new because I got it about 6 months ago, but I did want to make a point of showing that to you, primarily because when we start decorating with old stuff, it can be really challenging to find something in the right style, in the right colorway, in the right condition, etc., etc. Because after all, we're not just going to go out, grab the first thing we see, and hope it matches the rest of our decor. You know, when you want something, you want what you want. You don't just want the first thing that happens along. And I wanted you to see that because I had some really specific criteria in mind. I wanted Art Deco or Streamline Moderne. As it turned out, of course, I got Nouveau Deco, but I love it anyway. I really, really wanted a piece of Japanese lusterware. No, but I did get Bavarian lusterware, so half a win. And I needed it in the right colorway. Again, I feel like it was win, win, win every step of the way. And as I mentioned while I was filming a little video of it, the piece itself was $5. The bulk of what I paid for it, which was $17 and change, was tied up in shipping, but not the piece itself. So it just goes to show you, you can not only get exactly what you want, but you can get it very affordably if you're willing to put in the effort and look. Now, I found that piece when I ran an eBay search for lusterware hair receivers Japan. I had run another one for hair receivers Art Deco, didn't show up. I'm surprised this one did, because as I say, it was not from Japan, it was from Bavaria. Nevertheless, never be afraid to play with your search terms, because the most amazing stuff just turns up while you're searching. And we'll talk about that a little later in this video. Let's take a look at some of the other hair receivers I grabbed. Now this is my most recent batch of hair receivers. 5 of them. I picked them all up on eBay, not from the same seller, but all in the same purchase. Total cost on these was $91, which gave me an average price of $18 per hair receiver. And that ranges from this one at $5 to this one at $23. So, let's start with the little $5 one. These are all Nippon pieces, so they are all antique Japanese porcelain. The other one, the bathroom hair receiver that I showed you, was Bavarian. I think I mentioned that, but I will now in case I didn't. So this is a very sweet little piece. I grabbed it because given the cost of this overall purchase, I knew if when I got it, I didn't like it or it didn't really go with what I was looking for, that I would be able to offer it for resale at a good price, because let's face it, $18 and I've made my money back. I would be able to offer it at a good price and pass it along to someone who might put it to better use. So this is our little teeny tiny one. This one is just wonderful. This is not a color combination that I really think I'm going to be able to get much use from. I have to see, because it's a beautiful piece. It's very heavily embossed. The colors are fantastic, very bright, very vibrant, but I don't know, not the colors that I'm currently using anywhere. Still, I have to say, overall, that is a super little piece. Now let's take a peek at this one. One of the reasons I grabbed this is because my color scheme in the kitchen is mostly green and purple. And I really did want some green, purpley hair receivers for the kitchen. I do like this. It's just awfully pretty. But this one as well has, got that lid, has that same green-purple combination, and it might be a little better. This, by the way, is going to be a more valuable hair receiver because it's up on legs, and of course, as you can see from that gilding, the condition is fantastic. This one, which was the most expensive, called out to me because of this Imari style border. Now, it's not actually Imari, but let me see if I can get you some decent pictures of that. It's an Imari style. Also, the colors on this one do very well in my bedroom, and as you can see, it's already pressed into service. So, while we've got all these out, let's briefly discuss hair receivers. These were a thing from about the middle of the 19th century right up until around the 1920s, when they suddenly, and I mean practically overnight, fell out of fashion. Now, the point of a hair receiver was you shoved hair in it. And essentially, that's what its use was. You would brush your hair, pull the hair out of your brush, stick it in the hair receiver. Voila, a pot full of hair. Now that sounds very crazy to us, but when you consider that the prevalent style of hair in the late 19th century, going into the early 20th century, was this. This is the Gibson girl look. And it involved bunches of hair piled up on your head. And this was a style. It didn't matter if you had abundant hair or if you had just a few little wispy strands. So in order to get that poofy hairstyle, you would go into your hair receiver, pull out your little rat's nest of used hair, and use it on your head. You just pin it onto your head as a base for these elaborate hairstyles. Now, it was your own hair, so the color would match perfectly. And that's what people did. It held their hairballs. I know. I know you're probably sitting back laughing, saying, no, so you've got to be wrong. No, really, that is the way it was. But then, all of a sudden, the 1920s and the flappers and the bobs rolled around. So let's take a look at a flapper hairdo. And this is Louise Brooks. She was an actress, a hooker, and an author. She had a very unconventional life. But her bob was just archetypal 20s. So we can use the word archetype properly here. In fact, Kerry Greenwood, who wrote the Phryne Fisher Mysteries, says that she borrowed Phryne Fisher's look from Louise Brooks. Given Louise's rather scandalous personal life, and Phryne Fisher's, could be she borrowed a little more than just that bob from Louise. But nevertheless, that hairdo came in and just eclipsed everything else. Even women in the 1920s with long hair were wearing it close to their heads. So here's a picture of, and this is an actress, and I honestly do not remember who she is, but she's kind of got a sort of Mary Pickford look to her. The fact is that hairstyles changed very suddenly, and it meant that these hair receivers were gone. We did not see mega hair until the 1960s. And here, by the way, here's a picture of Dolly Parton in 1965. And it's okay for me to make fun of this because, believe me, Dolly herself has just really trashed this picture. In her words, it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. The woman has a fabulous sense of humor, and I know that if she had anything to say about it, she would not mind if I used this as an example of how out of control 1960s hairdos were. We are no longer doing this with our hair, but we have these gorgeous little pieces. And as I say, this is what I'm doing with them now. I throw in fragrance beads, and I have them all over my house. I'll have 2 or 3 of them in every room because you want to be able to have your house smell decent. I have a cat, so I have to be very mindful of untoward smells in the house. And I think these are great. They are beautiful little works of art, and I love it when you can find a work of art that actually serves a function. So I don't know how many of these will be staying with me. Some of them may end up getting passed on. This one, it does very well in the bedroom, so it's staying. And also, there's another thing about this. This is why it was more expensive and why I was willing to pay more for it. This is a very unusual shape, this little squared off look. So that is what we have in terms of our hair receivers. Some will be staying, this one for sure. I do love this one, but I just have a feeling I'm not going to be able to work effectively with these colors, but geez, it's gorgeous. So we don't know. We'll see in time. But again, this was one of my recent sort of binge purchases. Now, also keep in mind, I gave you the total for all of these, and the high over here, the low over here. When you are buying in bulk, and in this case, that's pretty much what I was doing. I just went through eBay listings and grab. When you're buying in bulk, especially if you're doing this for resale, don't be afraid to take your total and use that as a basis for the profitability of your purchases. Sometimes it can be very difficult to isolate a certain item and say, well, I paid $10 for this, especially if it was part of a set or if you bought it from a dealer who gave you a deep discount for buying half a dozen items from their booth. Don't be afraid to do approximations. This is $91 worth of hair receivers. The most expensive one is staying with me. So then I look at these, and when I look at profitability for these, I'm going to be looking at something, a break-even point much lower than the $18 average. Remember, I'm keeping the most expensive one. So my break-even point will be lower, and I will not be afraid to offer some of these at better deals. Just overall, if the math works, it works. All right, let's move on to something else next. Okay, the most important takeaway from this last batch is average out your purchase prices. I do that all the time, routinely. I will go out, I will not get crazy over, I paid $2.35 for this, I paid $6.74 for that. No. I usually look at it in terms of the entire purchase amount, because that needs to be my recovery point when I sell everything I bought. And you're always better off doing that, because every last one of us, especially if we frequently buy for resale, we are going to face a time when we thought something was a good investment, and it turns out we were wrong. Other times when we thought, well, there's no chance this is ever going to sell, turns out to just go off like a firecracker. Because none of us has a flawless crystal ball. So average the cost. I averaged my cost on 5 hair receivers and came up with, I believe it was $18.20 per hair receiver on average, because that helps me set a price point if I wanted to do these for resale. Now, that was not the purpose for this. The purpose was I needed some new hair receivers because I need more fragrance beads. My goodness. I want nice smell everywhere I turn in this place. So consequently, that meant grabbing a few more hair receivers. But because some of them may end up being passed along, through my Etsy shop or through eBay, whatever, they may end up going elsewhere. It's always helpful to have that price point, even if it's just an approximation in your head. So that's the takeaway from that little adventure. And because I have a little more time, I'm not sure this may go over. I'm having fun. I thought I would show you a couple of things that I picked up while prowling through. One was eBay, one was Etsy, on totally different searches. I was looking for celluloid flapper fans, period. That was what I was looking for. 2 things have very little to do with flappers or fans. They just happened to show up on my searches. So again, when you start searching, be creative, and also be open to the interesting stuff that shows up. So let's take a look at those last 2 pieces. So, moving right along, I want to show you a couple of celluloid pieces that I've purchased recently. This is a Japanese lacquered wood pencil box. Let me show you how this opens. And obviously the pencil or the fan, or in this case, the very pretty earring bracelet made by Karen Hopper over at the Sumi's Angels, will fit right in here. The top is beautifully painted celluloid. It's just wonderful. I saw this, I go through places like eBay, Etsy, the Ruby Lane, whoever. If they're online and they're selling stuff, I go through their celluloid all the time. And in this case, I was looking for a celluloid fan, just window shopping. And this box was listed as a wood and celluloid fan box. When I saw this, and by the way, the condition is fabulous. When I saw this beautiful little lacquered piece, I just grabbed it. $20, free shipping, so in love. So that was a fairly recent acquisition. And the newest, let me see if I can open this up for you. Again, celluloid hunts, looking around for celluloid fans. This is a little celluloid Art Deco pillbox. This is something called New Old Stock, and you'll see that abbreviated as NOS, New Old Stock, or NOSS, new old store stock, which means that it's brand new. It was just acquired from a warehouse or a store stock, whatever. Someone found a box full of these goodies. Well, when I got this, and of course I loved the daylights out of this, the price for the piece was $20, but it shipped in from Spain, so there was an additional $12 and change in shipping. I think by the time they added the tax and, the final total on this was about $34. But this is gorgeous. And if you are an Art Deco lover, as I am, and a celluloid lover, as I am, oh, quite the bargain, especially given the pristine condition. So, it was my ill fortune that the sellers went on vacation practically the moment I made this purchase. So when I got it, which by the way was only a couple of days, I was amazed by how quickly it shipped from Spain. Soon as I got it, I tried to get in touch with the sellers because I went through their Etsy shop reviews and found they had sold about a dozen of these over the past couple of years, leading me to conclude I might get more. Turns out they had 4. I say had because I just bought them this morning. And because a big chunk of the cost of this was the shipping, I got the 4 that I wanted. They are going to be Christmas presents because one of the things you have to keep in mind about people my age is we tend to take pills. And by the way, if we don't take pills, we have trinkets and jewelry and who knows, catnip, anything you might want to put in a little box. So I thought they would make fabulous Christmas presents. And the 4 I just bought came in at right around $25 a piece. The total cost on all 4 was $99 and change. So, am I ever thrilled with this? Because I have mine, and now 4 of my friends, and oh, just by coincidence, it was in fact 4 people I had in mind for this. 4 of my friends are going to get these for Christmas. So, sadly, they watch my videos, so I guess the surprise is going to be ruined. But still, I'm not going to say who they are, so I'll leave them guessing. But this is it's just too precious for words. So these were my recent celluloid acquisitions. Next time, I think we're going to take a look at a couple of fan acquisitions. And I know a lot of people have said this in the past, they would like to see the fans. And maybe we'll just do that. Maybe we will take a look at my celluloid fan collection, because that is what keeps me looking for pieces like this. It's what keeps me going to eBay and Etsy and trashing around stores trying to find Art Deco era flapper fans, because I do love them. So, as I say, we'll save that for next time, and we will end with these lovely little celluloid pieces. But once again, these are things I've bought for me, not for resale. Something like this in the right market. Now, if I were selling something like this, say, in New York City, celluloid, pristine condition, not a scratch on it, and this gorgeous Art Deco design. I don't know if you can tell, but these little stripes, the vertical stripes, are not color. That's clear celluloid, which makes it even more interesting to look at. Something like this, if you sold this in a major market, New York, LA, somewhere where people are accustomed to paying for what they're getting, you could absolutely turn a good profit on a piece like this. Here in my area, no. And of course, I would never want to overcharge for anything like this in an Etsy shop or on eBay. The fact of the matter is, I feel I paid a fair price for these pieces because I'm getting exactly what I want. If I had to sit down and just fabricate a wish list off the top of my head and say, ooh, what would I like if it were available? Boy, this would go right on the top of my list. So, very pleased with these. And once again, these are simply my own little purchases just for me. And please note, in general, nothing, well, with the exception of this, nothing was over $30, even including shipping. Just inexpensive little presents for me. So never be afraid to treat yourself. It can be a lot of fun. So what do you think of that? That wonderful little pencil box was a terrific surprise. And as soon as I got it in the mail, I looked at that and I said, you know, I have a bracelet that I had left that bracelet in a cardboard, one of those just regular cardboard bracelet boxes. It had pretty paper on it. I think it was gold or something. So it wasn't like, it didn't look like a paper bag. But I had it in a box like that on my dresser. And I realized as soon as that box came in, I have a new place to put that bracelet because I never wanted to pack it away somewhere. I like having it out so I always know it's there in case I need it. Sort of a little reminder, I can wear this bracelet if I want to. And it's a beautiful bracelet from Karen Hopper. And I'm sure you all know about Karen Hopper's work. She is a jewelry repurposer, and she is one of our Sumi's Angels over on the Facebook Sumi's Angel page. So I was thrilled. Finally, there was a box that was worthy of this gorgeous bracelet. The little Art Deco pillbox was, it just practically dropped into my lap. I was not looking for it. I would have been looking for it if I knew enough to, but in addition to this fabulous little pillbox, I did get 4 more. I have the Christmas presents I wanted. I'm thrilled. But this is also an Etsy seller I found who sells Art Deco jewelry. So, win-win all the way across the board. As I say, lesson to be learned. Get creative with those searches because you just never know what's going to fall into your lap. So, I thought you would find this interesting. It's a little different from what we usually do, but it's just, this is the stuff that has fallen into my life in the last several months because post-COVID, antique shopping has changed. The face of antiquing and thrifting has changed remarkably. Most of the businesses lost customers over the pandemic. They didn't recover the customer base fully. Not because, their customers are no longer with us, but because people are just not shopping the way they did 2 years ago. So we need to get a little more creative and we need to start taking a look at how to fill our needs by online shopping. So that's what I have for you today. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on our way out, and I will see you tomorrow with a little more of the same. All right, see you then.